Alright, good morning everyone. We are here live with break 441. Sorry to those that were waiting. With the sudden realization that we hadn't done yesterday's member milestone giveaway, I rushed to get that done. So the last couple of things, grabbing the stuff and emptying the bin, I just had to quickly do. But here we are. And we have a 26 League Heroes combo break featuring the 26 League Heroes case, the 26 League Hero, two 26 League Heroes hobby boxes, sorry. I was thinking of yesterday's bonus hobby box, and 5 26 League Heroes starter packs. Our team list: Broncos, Mark Tickner; Raiders, Joseph Romeo; Bulldogs, Chris Grech; Sharks, Michael Callaghan; Dolphins, Johnny D; Titans, Brad McKenna; Manly, Johnny D; Storm, Chris Hughes; Knights, Daniel Sorich; Cowboys, Johnny D; Eels, Daryl Barton; Panthers, Nathan Seal; Rabbitohs, Johnny D; Dragons, Warren Stoddart; Roosters, Scott McBryde; Warriors, Scott McBryde; Tigers, Josh Ellis. Be warned, guys, Warren had a cracking break yesterday. I was going through them. Broncos, I didn't realise how well they had done through the break either, taking pictures this morning. I got up to Storm for the pictures for that one, guys, so I had to sort the silver sets. We had none made up, ready to go. Alright, here's our two hobby boxes for later on. Let's bring up the YouTube chat. I don't know if it feels, yes, it feels a little bit darker because we have a blockage. So that problem. Feels like a while since we've done a retail break. Wasn't that long ago. Alright, we're going to get started with our starter packs. Okay, Panthers. Morning. Let's get these ones open first. Good, mate, good. Alright, first, Mr. Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Nico Hines for the Sharks. Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Murray Talagi for Cowboys. You see a silver card, as in I'm not sure what you mean. League Heads Junior Paulo for the Eels. And that's our 5 league stars, league head stars. League heads, Wade Egan, silver pack with the other. Yes, they're the bonus. Oh, did I miss one? No. Oh, we got 5. That's the bonus pack in the starter packs. League head, or the bonus card in the starter packs. League heads, Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Tom Starling for the Raiders. We have them listed singlies as singles on the website as well. They're in the retail section. So if you are looking for singles and looking for multiples, not just team cards, then you have the retail and the hobby categories, where you'll find all the cards out of the hobby boxes in their own category. Otherwise, if you're only searching for team cards, I highly recommend searching the website via clubs, or shopping the website via clubs. It's all split up. You click on your club, then select the year that you're looking for, and all the cards for that club come up. So you don't have to search between the retail and the hobby. It's all there. Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. We had our 2,600 member Facebook group members giveaway milestone. That was delayed. It was supposed to be yesterday, but we just got that done. So $260 gift card given away. Ali Latua for the Warriors. Blaze Talagi, Luminous for Panthers. A new hobby case break put in stock this morning. If you had that in your wish list, you would have received an email. That was probably only about 45 minutes ago. Die cut Robert Toya for the Roosters. Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Game Breakers Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. League heads Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Bang Cameron Munster for the Storm. I seen one there, post on Facebook where it's actually double printed. Seen the ones where they're up here instead of on the spot. No, he does not. Neither does Paps. Zali Hopkins, Luminous for the Dragons. But to be honest, I do hope they both come back. It's funny because I actually haven't put a post on Facebook yet, so it's only people that had it in their wish list that got notified. And me mentioning it a minute ago, that's the only mention I've had of it. League heads, Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. I accidentally left 445 in stock when it was coming soon, and someone brought Broncos in it. So when I took the break back out of stock, I emailed them and let them know, and they were happy to wait. So they were lucky enough to secure Broncos before it was supposed to be listed. I couldn't take it back off them as it was my stuff up. And cheering because she hadn't managed to score Broncos in a break yet with us. Mercury for Largo for Storm, number 219. Luminous, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Game Breakers, Ryan Pappenhausen for the Storm. We have 445 that's up already that got listed yesterday. There's still 9 teams, I think, in that one. Checking this morning. Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. But I believe so. We're waiting for an order to turn up. If the order turns up, then yeah, we're sweet lit. There'll be a few more. League head Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. Same as the box combos and everything like that. Game Breakers, Milwaukee Photo Ika for the Titans. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. Die cuts Lindsay Smith for Panthers. These ones are retail. What we're opening right now are retail packets. So in the hobby, you've got the gold die cut, where in the retail you have the colour. In the luminous, these aren't numbered. In the hobby, they are. Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. And that's in the wrong slot, because I haven't got the pictures done for the last one. I don't have my normal tray, especially from the angle. It makes it a bit easier seeing the teams lined up. Even then, I still manage to get them wrong. Ruben Garrick, league heads for Manly. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. And that's the end of the packs out of the starter packs. Let's get the retail boxes out and get stuck into that. Top tip of this round, top 5 all scored a perfect round. With the margin ranging from 22 to 33 or 2, something like that. We're looking for Becky B to confirm her details. Alright, last 2 guys. Let's get into it. We've got our second door put in this morning. Or the old door replaced is probably a better way of saying it. So, at the end of the day, that's one step closer to being finished and being able to set up the other table and have a bit more room for this out here. Alright. Oh, I didn't want to get rid of that box. That's all right. Bang, Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. League Heads Samula Finu for the Tigers. Luminous Luciano Lua for the Dragons. Red Triumph for the Bulldogs. Luminous Katoni Stags for the Broncos. League Heads Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous Asaya Papaliki for Panthers. Game Breakers Kira Dib for Cowboys. Luminous Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Bang Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. League Head Mitchell Moses for the Eels. If you're still there, Alex Seafa for Tigers. The easiest way to tell the difference between hobby and retail is retail are the white base and the hobby are the silver base. Colour die cut Cameron McGuinness for the Sharks. Luminous Keon Kolomatangi for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Kurt Mann for Bulldogs. League Heads Scott Drinkwater for Cowboys. Luminous Jermaine McEwen for the Knights. League Heads Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Tom Starling for the Raiders. Game Breakers Payne Huss for the Broncos. Luminous James Tedesco for the Roosters. No Dolphins. Bang Katoni Stags for the Broncos. And Luminous Max Platt for the Dolphins. There we go, breaking the ice for the Dolphins. League Heads Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Cameron Murray for Rabbitohs. Robert Toya die cut for Roosters. Luminous Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Game breakers, Emily Bass for the Tigers. Luminous Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Colour die cuts, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous Tamika Upton for the Broncos. Bang Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Will Penasini for the Eels. League heads, Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Jonah Pezzett for the Storm. We have a Premiership Predictor. You know what? I think it's the first time that the cover card is NRL, not NRLW. Just a random notice. Triple league heads, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. Bang Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. Gladiators RCG for Titans 157. Cameron Munster, Luminous for Storm. Game breakers, Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous Jesse Ramian for the Sharks. League head Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Luminous Brian Kelly for the Titans. Game breakers, Jesse Colhoun for the Sharks. Luminous Bailey Simonson for the Eels. League head, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous Ali Latua for the Warriors. Colour die cut, Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Mercury Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders, number 405. Luminous Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Game breakers, Kurt Catewell for the Warriors. Luminous Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Bang Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Saratoga Tuki for the Tigers. League heads, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous Connolly Loomy Lou for Dolphins. Hey, Triumph. Reese Walsh for the Broncos. Luminous Samuel Stone Street for the Sharks. League heads, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Luminous Ben Trebojevic for Manly. Game breakers, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Still swear that's got to be one of the best pictures on cards ever. I think it's awesome. I love it. Colour die cut whole card too for Manly. Luminous Tanila Paseka for Manly. Game breakers, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous Sam Walker for Roosters. Alright, that's box number 1 done and dusted. Don't forget, we're breaking again tomorrow with a hobby case break. I think that's 444, maybe 443. Box number 2. League heads, Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Luminous White for the Roosters. Game breakers, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Luminous Lachlan Ellis for Dragons. Bang Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Lindsay Smith for Panthers. So you know when I've stuffed up during the break and put a card in the wrong, or a numbered one anyway, because it won't be in the main picture, but when you go to the numbers, all of a sudden there's an extra one there. I always make sure I get the numbers. League heads, Nelson Asafa Solomona for the Storm. Luminous Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. That way, if anything ever goes wrong, we always have pictures. We know what was supposed to be there, what was there. Colour die cut, Eliza Katoa for Storm. Luminous Xavier Willison for Broncos. Game breakers, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Tommy Turbo for Manly. Coloured die cuts, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Red Triumphs for the Dolphins. Luminous, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Mercury, Jonah Pezzett for Storm, number 391. Luminous, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. League heads, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. League heads, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous, Blake Brayley for Sharks. League heads, John Bateman for the Cowboys. Luminous, Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. Triumphs, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous, Billy Smith for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Chance Nicole Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Tiana Penatani Gray for the Sharks. Bang, Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous, Terrell May for the Tigers. Instant win. Luminous, Alex Twile for the Tigers. League heads, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Luminous, Max King for the Bulldogs. Bang, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Elishan Albert Jones for the Warriors. League heads, Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Luminous, Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Die cuts, Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous, KO Weeks for the Raiders. League heads, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Luminous, Beau Fermor for Titans. Bang Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Luminous Tyron Wishart for Storm. Game Breakers, Julia Robinson for the Broncos. Luminous Kira Dibb for Cowboys. League Heads, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Die cut Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous Sam Verrills for the Titans. League Heads, Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Luminous Bradman Best for the Knights. Bang Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. Bang Wyken King Togia for the Dragons. Luminous Tuikami Kamika for Storm. League Heads, Bradman Best for the Knights. Luminous Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Gladiators, Koala for Manly, number 238. Luminous Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, Tegan Dimmick for Bulldogs. Luminous Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Dylan Edwards for the Panthers. Luminous Stefano Utikamanu for Storm. League Heads, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous Jack Williams for the Eels. Last packet for box number 2. Game Breakers, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Jason Tormalolo for Cowboys. And let's go with box number 3. Bang Dean Mariner for Broncos. Luminous Kira Dibb for the Cowboys. League heads, Valami kicker for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Braden Trindle for Sharks. Game breakers, Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous, Sam Verrills for Titans. League heads, Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous, Bradman Best for the Knights. Colour die cuts, Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Tolso Koala for Manly. Colour die cuts, Jack Hetherington for the Knights. Luminous, Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Game breakers, Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Gladiators, Mr. Gutherson for the Dragons, number 64. Luminous, Payne Haas for the Broncos. League heads, Greg Marzu for Knights. Luminous, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Colour die cut, Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Game breakers, Shaylee Bent for the Titans. Luminous, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Bang, Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. League heads, Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Luminous, Jesse Calhoun for the Sharks. League heads, Joash for the Eels. Luminous, Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. League heads, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Luminous, Jareem Buller for the Tigers. Bang, Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous, Xavier Coates for Storm. Bang, Leka Halasima for the Warriors. Luminous, Lyshan Albert Jones for the Warriors. League heads Moses Leota for Panthers. Luminous Reece Walsh for the Broncos. Game breakers Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Herbie Farmworth for Dolphins. Colour die cut Joash for the Eels. Luminous Dylan Egan for Dragons. League heads Alehe Hopewate for Manly. Luminous Abbey Church for the Eels. Game breakers Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Kurt Capewell for the Warriors. Red Triumph Mawaki photo icon for the Titans. Luminous Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Game breakers Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous Isaiah Yo for Panthers. League heads Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. Luminous Dylan Brown for the Knights. Game breakers Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Luminous Clinton Gutterson for the Dragons. League heads Keon Colomatini for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Ben Hunt for the Broncos. Bang Asaya Yongi for the Eels. Luminous Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Bang Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Luminous Asaya Yongi for the Eels. Game breakers Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous Junior Paulo for the Eels. Colour die cut Oregon Kafusi for the Sharks. Luminous Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins. League heads Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Luminous Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Mercury Braden Trindle for the Sharks, number 355. Luminous Luciano Leilua for the Dragons. 3 packets left for box number 3. Game Breakers Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Billy Smith for the Roosters. Red Triumphs Canberra Raiders. Luminous Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. And lucky last. League Heads Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous Max King for the Bulldogs. Box number 4. League Heads Stefano Utokumanu for Storm. Luminous James Fisher Harris for the Warriors. League Heads Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Luminous Dominic Young for the Knights. Game Breakers Xavier Willison for the Broncos. Luminous Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Gladiators Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs, number 205. Luminous Nelson Asafa Solomona for Storm. Bang James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons. League Heads Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Colour die cuts Billy Smith for the Roosters. Luminous Liam Martin for Panthers. We have Predictor. Luminous Hamoli Olika R2 for Manly. League Heads Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Anessa Biddle for the Sharks. Luminous Luca Moretti for the Eels. Game breakers, Zach Labour for the Cowboys. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Bang Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous Adam Dewey for the Tigers. League heads, Dominic Young for the Knights. Luminous Big Tino for Titans. Triumph Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Kale Iro for the Sharks. Bang Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs. Game breakers Tui Kamika for Storm. Luminous Cody Nikarima for Dolphins. Mercury Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins, 224. Isaac Tago for the Panthers. Game breakers, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. League heads, Brian To'a for Panthers. Luminous Damien Cook for the Dragons. League heads, Sam Verrills for the Titans. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly. Game breakers, Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Luminous Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Game breakers, Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous Alifiana Khan Kiera for Titans. League heads, Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Addo Carr for the Eels. Nope, wrong one. Bang, Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Robert Toya for the Roosters. League heads, KO Weeks for Raiders. Luminous Samaima Torfa for Raiders. Colour die cuts, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous Tamir Martin for Warriors. Colour die cuts, Keon Colomatengi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Jalen DeGroot Bang for Titans. Luminous Gahamat Shabarsky for Broncos. League heads, Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Luminous Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Tolator Koala for Manly. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Red Triumph for the Tigers. Luminous Reed Marnie. That's probably the worst one I've seen out of the pack. I don't know if you can see the wrinkle on it. Anyway, Reed Marnie. Remember guys, you can take, that is a protective film. It is layered underneath. So there's nothing wrong with the card, it's just a protective film on the card. League heads, Marata Nakor for Warriors. Luminous Keezy Apps for the Tigers. Colour die cuts, Casey McLean for Panthers. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. 2 packets left for box number 4. Bang Whenua Pole for Tigers. Luminous Kalen Ponga for Knights. League heads, Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs, and Luminous Lycan King Togia for Dragons. Alright, box number 5. Alright, colour die cut, Isaiah Papali'i for Panthers. Luminous Philip Semi for the Titans. League heads Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. League heads Sebastian Chris for the Raiders. Luminous Patrick Carrigan for the Broncos. Game breakers Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Luminous Dane Gagai for the Knights. League heads Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Luminous Connor Watson for the Roosters. Bang Gahamat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Fanua Pole for the Tigers. Bang Joash for the Eels. Luminous Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Game breakers Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Dylan Walker Luminous for the Eels. League heads Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous Zahara Temera for the Raiders. Mercury Loco Tonga for the Dragons. Number 422. Luminous Brian Toa for Panthers. Game breakers Alex Twal for Tigers. Luminous Cameron McInnes for Sharks. League heads Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Luke Lawlilly for Tigers. Oh, itchy nose. Go away. Colour die cuts Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. Luminous Greg Marju for the Knights. League heads Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Kulikefu for the Dolphins. Red Triumphs for Dragons. Luminous Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Red Triumph, Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Trent LaRoe for Storm. Game breakers Luca Moretti for Eels. Luminous Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Game breakers, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Luminous, Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. Bang, Renato Mulatalo for the Sharks. Luminous, Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. League heads, Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Mackenzie Wheel for the Cowboys. Bang, Isaac Tago for Panthers. Luminous, Tamale for the Raiders. League heads, Anfanua Blake for the Sharks. Luminous, Jamal Fogarty for Manly. League heads, Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Luminous, Emma Veron for the Sharks. Die cut, Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Bang, Tamar Martin for the Warriors. Luminous, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Game breakers, Dominic Young for Knights. Luminous, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Bang, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous, Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Die cuts, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous, AJ Brimson for the Titans. Game breakers, Isabel Kelly for the Roosters. Luminous, Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Colour die cut, James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous, Dylan Lucas for the Knights. League heads, Regan Campbell Gillard for the Titans. Luminous, Lockie Galvin for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Kale Arrow for the Sharks. Luminous, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. League heads Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Luminous Marata Nakor for the Warriors. Game Breakers Trent Lareau for Storm. Luminous Moses Leota for Panthers. Gladiators Nico Hines for the Sharks, number 565. Luminous Savala for the Roosters. Alright, lucky last packet for the box. League heads Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Farlago for Storm. And that's the end of box number 5. Box number 6. League heads Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. Luminous Ronaldo Mulatalo for the Sharks. Red Triumph Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Bang Alifiana Kampi Era for Titans. Luminous Zach Labour for the Cowboys. Die cuts Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. League heads Wade Egan for the Warriors. Luminous Lycan King, Loco Pacific Tonga for the Dragons. My bad, spitting that one out. Game Breakers Kayla Pongan for the Knights. Luminous Luke Brooks for Manly. League heads Xavier Coates for Storm. Luminous Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. Gladiators Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins, number 115. Luminous Keanu Kinney for the Titans. League heads Ethan Bullymore for Manly. Luminous Kyle Flanagan for the Dragons. Game Breakers White for the Roosters. Luminous Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Die cuts Taylor May for the Tigers. Luminous Cassie Hiku for the Eels. League heads Roger Tuvasa Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous Marky Mark for Roosters. Game Breakers Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. Golden Triumph. Luminous Wade Egan for the Warriors. League heads Adam Dewey for the Tigers. Luminous Latu Finu for the Tigers. Bang Jackson Purdue for the Cowboys. Luminous Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Game Breakers Jamie Chapman for the Titans. Luminous Tom Dearden for the Cowboys. League heads Payne Huss for the Broncos. Luminous Jalen DeGroot for Titans. Game Breakers Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Angelina for the Bulldogs. Bang Greg Marzu for the Knights. Luminous Zach Lomax for the Eels. League heads, Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Nathan Cleary for Panthers. Mercury, Hugo Savala for the Roosters, number 309. Luminous, Jay Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers, so Tilly Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Billy Walters for the Broncos. Colour die cuts, Connolly Loomy Lou for Dolphins. Luminous, Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Die cuts, Greg Marsu for the Knights. Luminous, Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Bang, Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. League heads, Falago for Storm. Luminous, Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Game breakers, Jerome Luai Buller. Dream Buller for the Tigers, my bad. Luminous, Georgia Hale for the Titans. Where are we at? 8 packets to go, including this one. Bang, Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous, Josh Kerr for Dragons. League heads, Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Luminous, Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Red Triumph, Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Luminous, Ruben Garrick for Manly. League heads, Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous, Mitch Kenny for the Panthers. 4 packets left. Game breakers, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Luminous, Adam Fanua Blake for the Sharks. And that's the end of box number 6. No, it's not. Oh, Daryl, wake up. Having a shocker. Game breakers, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous, Harry Grant for Storm. League heads, Mitch Kenny for Panthers. Luminous, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. And lucky last for box number 6. Bang, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. And Luminous, Tyson Frizzell. Alright, I'm going to take this moment to quickly go and grab a drink, guys. I'll be back in just a sec. Alright, we're back. Go box number 7. League heads, Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous, Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Game breakers, Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous, Dylan Walker for the Eels. Bang, Clinton Gutherson for the Dragons. Luminous, Zahara Temera for the Raiders. League heads, Connolly Lumi Lou for the Dolphins. Luminous, Tyron Wishart for Storm. League heads, Apasai Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous, Patrick Carrigan for Broncos. Bang Falago for Storm. Luminous, Dane Gagai for the Knights. Triumph, Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Luminous, Ray Stone for the Dolphins. League heads, Adam Reynolds for the Broncos. Painter or plaster? Yeah, that's right. Luminous, Connor Watson for the Roosters. We'll keep each other company. Clyde Churchill Medal Predictor. Luminous, Alex Twile for the Tigers. Gladiators, Apasai Coruscant for the Tigers. Number 310. Luminous, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Nico Hines for the Sharks. Luminous, Philip Semi for the Titans. League heads, Brian Kelly for Titans. Luminous, Brian Top for Panthers. Game Breakers, Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Jason Tomalolo for the Cowboys. Die cut, Marky Mark for the Roosters. Luminous, Luke Lilly for Tigers. League heads, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous, Tiana Penatani Grey for Sharks. Bang, Jaden Campbell for the Titans. Luminous, Terrell May for Tigers. Game Breakers, Sanua Taruva for Tigers. Luminous, Jack Williams for the Eels. Mercury, Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. Number 201. Luminous, Roger Tuivasa Sheck for the Warriors. League heads Jacob Little for the Dragons. Luminous Stefano Utokamanu for Storm. Die cut Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Luminous KO Weeks for the Raiders. Game Breakers Hamoli Olika Atu for Manly. Luminous Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Red Triumphs Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Luminous Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. League heads Liam Martin for Panthers. Luminous Blake Brayley for the Sharks. Bang Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Tui Kamika for Storm. Excuse me. Game Breakers Nelson Asopa Solomona for Storm. Luminous Jake Chaboyevich for Manly. Colour die cut Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Sean Kepi for the Rabbitohs. League heads Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. Luminous Bo Fermor for Titans. League heads Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Tegan Berry for the Dragons. Bang Hugo Savala for the Roosters. Luminous White for the Roosters. Game Breakers Ezra Mann for Broncos. Luminous Jack Bostock for the Dolphins. Die cuts Bo Fermor for Titans. Luminous Lindsay Smith for Panthers. 5 packets left for the box. League heads Ethan Strange for Raiders. Luminous Fletcher Sharp for Knights. Game Breakers Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous Xavier Willison for Broncos. Bang Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Luminous Tommy Turbo for Manly. League Heads Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers Bree Chester for Cowboys. Luminous Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Alright, another box done and dusted. Box number 8. Yes, plaster is here after my brother couldn't set in a access panel properly. Made plaster have to come back and redo his work. I wouldn't be happy. Liam Martin to okay for Panthers. Greg Marshew for the Knights. He's got his headphones in, so I don't think he can hear me. League Heads Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Cooley Kefu for the Dolphins. Game Breakers Junior Paulo for the Eels. Luminous Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Bang Ruben Garrick for Manly. Luminous Appy Nichols for the Warriors. Oh. League Heads Hamoli Olika R2 for Manly. Luminous Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Gladiators Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys, number 508. Luminous Carl Lawton for the Cowboys. League Heads Joseph Tarpanay for the Raiders. Luminous Thanua Pole for the Tigers. Jack Howarth, die cut for the Storm. Luminous Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Game Breakers Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous Trent LaRoe for Storm. Bang Zach Lomax for the Eels. Luminous Jamal Fogarty for Manly. Mercury Blaze Talagi for Panthers, number 22. And Dylan Lucas Luminous for the Knights. Game Breakers Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys. Luminous Latu Finu for the Tigers. League Heads Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous Ezra Mam for the Broncos. Bang Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Tommy Dearden for the Cowboys. Game Breakers Keezy Axe for the Tigers. Luminous Jai Arrow for the Rabbitohs. League Heads James Tedesco for the Roosters. Luminous Lachlan Galvin for the Bulldogs. League Heads Gehamat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Keanu Kinney for Titans. League Heads Alfiana Khan Piera for Titans. Luminous Kyle Flanagan for Dragons. League Heads Max King for the Bulldogs. Luminous Moses Leota for Panthers. Game Breakers Damien Cook for the Dragons. Luminous Adam Reynolds for Broncos. Bang Xavier Savage for the Raiders. Luminous Jermaine Hopgood for the Eels. Game Breakers Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous Mackenzie Wheel for Cowboys. Bang Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Tamale for the Raiders. League Heads Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Luminous Hugo Savala for Roosters. Game Breakers Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights. Luminous Emma Veron for the Sharks. Red Triumphs for the Sharks. Luminous Samula Fainu for the Tigers. Die Cuts Brendan Pakura for the Broncos. Luminous Angelina for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Luminous Zach Lomax for the Eels. Die Cuts Luke Lawlilly for Tigers. Luminous Falago for Storm. Bang Chanel Harris Tavita for the Warriors. Luminous Nathan Cleary for Panthers. League Heads Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jamie Humphries for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers Jason Tormalolo for the Cowboys. Luminous Billy Walters for the Broncos. Red Triumphs Christian Tupelo. Yeah, Tupelo. What? Tupelo. Yep. For the Dragons. Wouldn't even know. Dang. Oh. Tarpanay Luminous for the Raiders. League Heads Cameron McInnes for the Sharks. Luminous Brendan Smith for the Rabbitohs. League Heads Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. Luminous AJ Brinson for Titans. And lucky last packet for the box. Die Cuts Morgan Smithies for the Raiders. Luminous Marata Nakor for the Warriors. Box number 9. League Heads Dylan Walker for the Eels. Luminous Matthew Tomoko for the Raiders. Bang, Ethan Strange for the Raiders. Luminous, Jermaine McEwen for the Knights. Bang, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous, Luke Metcalf for the Warriors. Game Breakers, Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous, Sarah Togatuki for the Tigers. League Heads, Moses Sulai for the Dragons. Luminous, Charles Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. League Heads, Brighton Nakora for the Sharks. Luminous, Connolly Lumi Alu for Dolphins. Red Triumphs, Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Samuel Stone Street for the Sharks. League Heads, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Luminous, Tanila Paseka for Manly. Game Breakers, Asaya Yongi for the Eels. Luminous, Sam Walker for the Roosters. Jack Williams, die cut for the Eels. Luminous, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Terrell May for the Tigers. Luminous, Ethan Sanders for the Raiders. Red Triumphs, Katoni Stags for the Broncos. Luminous, Mawaki Fodawaka for Titans. Game Breakers, Nita Maynard for the Dragons. Luminous, Ali Briganshaw for the Broncos. Bang Toltokuwala for Manly. Luminous, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. League Heads, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Jerome Hughes for Storm. Gladiators, Xavier Savage for the Raiders, number 496. Luminous, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Game breakers Max Plath for the Dolphins. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. League heads Fletcher Sharp for the Knights. Luminous Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Die cuts Ali Latua for the Warriors. Luminous Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Game breakers Patricia Malepo for the Warriors. Luminous James Tedesco for the Roosters. League heads Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. League heads Keanu Kinney for the Titans. Luminous Max Plath for Dolphins. Mercury Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors, number 241. Luminous Cameron Murray for the Rabbitohs. Game breakers Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Ben Trebojevic for Manly. Bang Zach Labert for the Cowboys. Luminous Sanua Taruva for the Tigers. League heads Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. Luminous Will Penasini for the Eels. Game breakers Corey Horsburgh for the Raiders. Sean Russell Luminous for the Eels. Die cuts Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. Luminous Jonah Pezzett for Storm. Bang Casey McLean for Panthers. Luminous John Bateman for the Cowboys. Die cuts Jerome Loy for Tigers. Luminous Regan Campbell Gillard for Titans. League heads Jake Trbojevic for Manly. Luminous Jackson Purdue for Cowboys. Die cuts Lachlan Ellis for the Dragons. Luminous Azali Hopkins for the Dragons. 4 packets left for the box. Game Breakers Jalen de Groot for Titans. Luminous Blaze Talagi for Panthers. League Heads Ray Stone for the Dolphins. Luminous Tom Starling for the Raiders. Bang Jerome Hughes for Storm. Luminous Tamika Upton for Broncos. League Heads Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Jesse Ramian for Sharks. Right, box number 10. Alright, so this is our third last box out of the case, and our 2 hobby boxes left to go. So on volume, technically 4 boxes. Let's see how we go. I think it's about time we add some more to the table. League Heads Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous Luke Brooks for Manly. Red Triumphs for the Eels. Luminous Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Game Breakers Billy Walters for the Broncos. Luminous Xavier Savage for the Raiders. League Heads Jason Saab for Manly. Luminous Georgia Hale for Titans. Game Breakers Sophie Hollyman for Raiders. Luminous Josh Kerr for the Dragons. Bang Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Ruben Garrick for Manly. Game Breakers Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Mitch Kenny for Panthers. Bang Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Bailey Simonson for the Eels. Red Stripe, top for Panthers. Luminous Wade Egan for the Warriors. No, you're right, dude. It's all good. Game Breakers, Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Luminous Jesse Southwell for the Knights. Mercury Jacob Saifiti for the Knights, number 67. Luminous Jamin Salmon for the Bulldogs. League Heads Chance Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous Luciano Lua for the Dragons. Bang Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Corey Horsburgh Luminous for the Raiders. Die cuts Matthew Lodge for Manly. Luminous Katoni Staggs for Broncos. Game Breakers Gahamat Shabarsky for the Broncos. Luminous Cameron Munster for Storm. Bang Adam Reynolds for Broncos. Luminous Isaiah Papali'i for Panthers. Game Breakers Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Luminous Jalen de Groot for Titans. League Heads Robert Toya for the Roosters. Luminous Adam Whenua Blake for the Sharks. League Heads Ronaldo Mulatalo for the Sharks. Luminous Cassie Hiku for the Eels. League Heads Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Jacob Carraz for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Alex Seafarth for Tigers. Dally M Wildcard. Luminous Marky Mark for Roosters. League Heads Reese Walsh for Broncos. Luminous Brian Kelly for the Titans. Gladiators Liam Martin for Panthers, number 420. Keon Colomatingi for the Rabbitohs. Oh. League heads Roger Tuivasa-Sheck for the Warriors. Luminous Tyson Frizzell for the Knights. League heads Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Luminous Ali Latua for the Warriors. League heads Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Tom Gilbert for the Dolphins. William Kennedy die cut for the Sharks. Luminous Jordan Ricky for the Broncos. Bang Episodic Coruscant for Tigers. Luminous Jessica Surgis for the Roosters. League heads Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Die cut Dylan Lucas for the Knights. Luminous Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. We got 5 packets left for the box. Game Breakers Tyron Wishart for the Storm. Luminous Harry Grant for the Storm. Die cut Jojo Fafita. Luminous Renato Mortalo for the Sharks. League heads Cody Nicarima for the Dolphins. Luminous Jacob Saifiti for the Knights. Game Breakers Connor Watson for the Roosters. Luminous Zach Labert for the Cowboys. Bang Kale Iro for the Sharks. Luminous Loco Tonga for the Dragons. Alright, another box done and dusted. We will just move them out of the way. Die cuts Will Penasini for the Eels. Luminous Casey McLean for Panthers. League heads Greg Marzu for the Knights. Luminous Jacob Preston for the Bulldogs. Red Triumphs Teddy for the Roosters. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys. League heads Harry Grant for Storm. Luminous Kale Hero for the Sharks. League heads Isaiah Katoa for Dolphins. Luminous Keezy Apps for Tigers. Game breakers Billy Smith for the Roosters. Luminous Jerome Hughes for Storm. Game breakers Cameron Murray for Storm. Rabbitohs. I knew where it was going. Cody Walker Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Bang Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Bang Jaden Sewer for the Dragons. Luminous Brighton Nakora for Sharks. League heads Joash for the Eels. Luminous Chance Nico Cockstad for the Warriors. League heads Milwaukee Fodawaka for Titans. Luminous Kalen Ponga for the Knights. Game breakers Blaze Talagi for Panthers. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly. Die cuts Peter for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Lycan King Togia for the Dragons. League heads Val Holmes for the Dragons. Luminous Isaac Tago for the Panthers. League heads Keon Colomatingi for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Bang Kalen Ponga for Knights. Luminous Alafiana Kanki Era for Titans. Die cuts Lindsay Smith for Panthers. Luminous Adam Dewey for the Tigers. League heads, Ezra Mann for the Broncos. Luminous, Damien Cook for the Dragons. Red Triumphs for Tigers. Luminous, Ali Briganshaw for Broncos. Gladiators, Jordan Ricky for the Broncos, number 113. Addo Carr in the Luminous for Eels. Game Breakers, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous, Robert Toya for the Roosters. Die cut, Brian Kelly for the Titans. Luminous, Gahamat Shabarski for the Broncos. League heads, Aleha Hapawate for Manly. Luminous, Jermaine Isako for Dolphins. Game Breakers, Olivia Higgins for the Knights. Luminous, Dominic Young for the Knights. League heads, Apasai Coruscant for the Tigers. Luminous, Homoli Olakaatu for Manly. Bang Chans Nico Klokstad for the Warriors. Luminous, Lindsay Collins for the Roosters. Game Breakers, Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous, Milwaukee Fodawaka for Titans. Mercury Bailey Simonson for the Eels, number 293. Luminous, Samima Torfa for the Raiders. Not a good move. Bang, Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm. Luminous, Tamir Martin for the Warriors. 7 packs to go in this box. League heads, Bailey Haywood for the Bulldogs. Luminous, Jai Gray for the Rabbitohs. Game Breakers, James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors. Luminous, Ethan Sanders for Raiders. Bang, Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins. Luminous, William Kennedy for Sharks. League heads, William Kennedy for the Sharks. Luminous, sorry. Saitili Tupanua for the Bulldogs. Dally M Predictor, Luminous Sean Russell for the Eels. Game Breakers, Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Luminous Zali Hopkins for the Dragons. Game Breakers, Kurt Mann for the Bulldogs. Luminous Reed Marnie for the Cowboys. And that is the end of box number 11. Got one box to go out of our case. Alright. Last box out of the case. Let's get it done. Game Breakers, Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Luminous Cohen Hess for the Cowboys. Bang Jermaine Isako for the Dolphins. Luminous Nico Hines for the Sharks. League heads, Alex Twile for the Tigers. Luminous Alehe Hopewate for Manly. Bang Alehe Hopewate for Manly. Luminous Ethan Bullimore for Manly. Mercury Ben Trebojevic for Manly, number 382. Morgan Smithies Luminous for the Raiders. Red Triumph Molly Olaka'atu for Manly. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos. Gladiators Marata Nakor for the Warriors, number 370. Luminous Tolato Koala for Manly. League heads Luke Brooks for Manly. Luminous Jesse Colquhoun for the Sharks. League heads Mitchell Barnett for the Warriors. Luminous Dylan Edwards for Panthers. Game Breakers Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Payne Huss for the Broncos. League heads Jareem Bula for Tigers. Luminous Sebastian Chris for Raiders. Got a few notifications on Facebook waiting for it to finish up. Game Breakers Dane Gagai for the Knights. Luminous Phoenix Crossland for the Knights. Die Cuts Milwaukee Photo Waika for Titans. Luminous Kurt Capewell for the Warriors. Die Cuts Tamir Martin for the Warriors. Luminous Angus Crichton for the Roosters. Game Breakers Daniel Tupou for the Roosters. Luminous Jaden Campbell for the Titans. League heads Herbie Farmworth for the Dolphins. Luminous Taylor Preston for the Bulldogs. Die Cuts Tom Starling for the Raiders. Luminous Asaya Youngie for the Eels. Die Cuts Jacob Carraz for Bulldogs. Luminous Aleka Halasima for the Warriors. League heads Hammer for the Dolphins. Luminous Jack Whiten for the Rabbitohs. Bang Tamale for the Raiders. Luminous Campbell Graham for the Rabbitohs. Bang Ali Latua for the Warriors. Luminous Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Game Breakers Ali Latua for the Warriors. Luminous Jamie Chapman for the Titans. League heads Hudson Young for the Raiders. Luminous Jerome Luai for the Tigers. League heads Murray Talagi for Cowboys. Luminous Hammer for the Dolphins. Game Breakers Big Tino for the Titans. Luminous Ruben Cotter for the Cowboys. Die-cut Felice Kafusi for Dolphins. Luminous Herbie Farmworth for Dolphins. League Heads Braden Trindle for the Sharks. Dylan Egan Luminous for Dragons. Game Breakers Abby Church for the Eels. Luminous Abby Church for the Eels. What have we got? 2, 3, 6, 8. Last packet for the box. League Heads Jack Williams for the Eels. Luminous Jareem Buller for the Tigers. Bang, Cameron Munster for Storm. Luminous Spencer Lenu for the Roosters. One more for the table, out of the case. Let's do it. League Heads Tommy Turbo for Manly. Luminous Isaiah Yo for Panthers. Red Triumph, Alex Johnston. Luminous Dylan Brown for the Knights. League Heads Xavier Willison for Broncos. Luminous Clinton Gutherson for Dragons. Game Breakers Stephen Crichton for the Bulldogs. Luminous Xavier Coates for Storm. Game Breakers Luciano Leilua for Dragons. Luminous Ben Hunt for Broncos. Bang Mitchell Moses for the Eels. Luminous Hudson Young for the Raiders. Alright, that's the end of the case. It's got 2 hobby boxes to go. Let's get her done. Yeah. Luminous Asaya Yongi, number 89. Die cut Luca Moretti, number 212. Jack Whiten, Luminous for the Rabbitohs. Luminous Matt Burton for the Bulldogs. Gold die cut Cameron Munster, number 219. And what was Matty Burton? Number 252. Luminous Jamie Chapman for the Titans, number 648. So because there's not many of the Luminous in this break, I do take a picture of the numbers, but I don't take a picture of the numbers in the hobby case break. Luminous Jerome Luai for the Tigers. Etched Joash Papalihi for the Eels, number 38. Luminous Hudson Young for the Raiders, number 98. Mercury Sterling, Harry Grant for Storm, number 53. Luminous Leka Helasima for the Warriors, number 98. Gold die cuts KO Weeks for the Raiders, number 17. Luminous Hammer Fido for the Dolphins. Gold Gladiators Nico Hines for the Sharks, number 95. Luminous Episode Carousel for the Tigers, number 470. Gold die cut Felice Kafusi for the Dolphins, number 222. Come on. Luminous Cullen Hess for the Cowboys, number 299. Gold die cut Payne Huss for the Broncos, 162. Nico Hines in the Luminous, number 530. And it's Tommy Turbo in the Etched for Manly, number 140. Luminous Lehe Hopawate for Manly, number 38. Luminous Morgan Smithies for the Raiders, number 196. Gold die cut Connor Tracy for the Bulldogs, number 170. Luminous Dean Mariner for the Broncos, number 270. Playmakers, Alifiana Khan Pierre for Titans, number 11. Four packets left for our first hobby box. Luminous Isabel Kelly for the Roosters, number 91. And we have an instant win. I can't remember what our first instant win was. Nelson Asafa Solomona, Luminous for Storm, number 238. Luminous Alex Johnston for the Rabbitohs, number 214. Etched Beau Fermor for the Titans, number 131. Luminous Valami Kickout for the Bulldogs, number 275. Alright, last and final box for the break. Box number 2 in the hobby. Alright, final box. Let's see what else we can drum up. Luminous Jason Saab for Manly, number 695. Excuse me. Gold die cut Cameron McInnes for the Sharks, number 21. Luminous Ryan Pappenhausen for Storm, number 44. And Mercury Sterling Isaiah Katoa for the Dolphins, number 27. Luminous Gehamat Shabarsky for the Broncos, number 47. Gold die cuts Stefano Utokumanu for Storm, number 214. Jacob Preston, Luminous for the Bulldogs, number 638. Gold Gladiators, Kurt Capewell for the Warriors, number 119. Luminous Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys, 577. Luminous Keezy Apps for Tigers, number 386. Gold die cut Max Plath for the Dolphins, number 35. Luminous Cody Walker for the Rabbitohs, number 660. Etched Apasai Carousel for the Tigers, number 113. Luminous Brighton Nakora for the Sharks, number 91. Gold die cuts, Jermaine McEwen for the Knights, number 54. Luminous Kalen Ponga for Knights, number 56. Luminous Scott Drinkwater for the Cowboys, number 630. And we have a Premiership, Dally M predictor. That's not bad. 2 big hits out of our 2 hobby boxes. Luminous Luca Moretti for the Eels, number 489. Gold die cuts, Jeremiah Nanai for the Cowboys, number 96. Luminous James Fisher-Harris for the Warriors, number 325. Gold Gladiators, Lindsay Smith for Panthers, 128. Six packets left in the break. Luminous Yasmin Clydesdale for the Knights, number 214. Luminous Val Holmes for the Dragons, number 26. Gold die cuts, Bo Fermel for Titans, number 130. Liam Martin, Luminous for Panthers, 191. Etched Latrell Mitchell for the Rabbitohs, number 52. Three to go. Luminous Big Tino for Titans, 628. Playmakers Dylan Walker for the Eels, number 80. Luminous Kale Iro for Sharks, number 261. Etched Stephen Crichton for Bulldogs, number 23. Alright, lucky last. Luminous Cody Nikarima for the Dolphins, number 219. Alright, let's move this pile out of our way and start at the beginning. Premiership Predictor 007 for the Roosters. Roosters is Scott McBryde. 007. Next up, Bulldogs instant win. Grech with the Bulldogs. Next, Dally M medal predictor Addo Carr for the Eels, number 224. Daryl with the Eels. Gold Triumphs, number 31 for the Warriors. Scott McBryde with the Warriors. Clive Churchill medal for the Raiders, number 145. Joseph Romeo with the Raiders. Alright, next up, Dally M predictor wildcard for the Tigers, number 76. We have 3 to go. The last of our retail hits, Dally M predictor Chanel Harris Tavita, number 220. Warriors, alright. And our second instant win out of our first hobby box for the Warriors. Again, Mr. Scott McBryde with them. Congratulations. Alright, lucky last for the break. Number 44. Mr. Luai for the Tigers. Josh Ellis with the Tigers. Alright, well, that's it. That's all for this one. Hope you had a ball and hope to see you again all in the next one when we go live tomorrow on our YouTube channel. So make sure you come say hello and I will see you there. Until then, see you all.